As kids, we all played in the sandbox, but as we grew older, we tended just to distance ourselves from the fun that, well, we used to once have. But thankfully, Ford, well, introduces this big boy behind me to reinvigorate our youth. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, I've admitted it hundreds of times before that I'm not an off-road enthusiast and pretty much stick to the beaten path. So this week, it didn't get muddy, but it definitely put some miles on this vehicle. So I remember playing with the Tonka trucks, and pretty much this is an adult version, just comes with a key and you can actually climb inside and drive it. Now what I like is pretty much it makes me a little bit more youthful and possibly makes me a little more, well, adventurous, but unfortunately that just doesn't happen. What I pretty much did in this week is keep it to the pavement. Now what's interesting is everyone for this trip I was going on said, why are you taking this gas guzzler? Well, I said, well, it can behave, it can get on the road and it will do just fine. And that's exactly what it did, most notably in fuel economy, basically around about 13 to 15 miles per gallon. That's not obviously a lot, but on a vehicle like this, certainly I thought it delivered quite well. Now what we found in the city, it was around about the low teens, maybe 9 miles per gallon. So obviously the stop and go traffic definitely hampers it just a hair more. But when you get this big boy on the open road, well, it has a great demeanor, and better yet, it sips gas just a little bit better. Vehicles are like music. The more you listen to music, the more you can judge whether you hate it or love it, but at least you have some validity and, well, a basis to go on. For a vehicle, it's the same thing. The more you test drive it, the more hours you put behind the wheel, well, you can build off, well, what you've learned from it. That's exactly what happened this week. Now, the first test drive behind a Raptor a year or so back, well, it was just a nice little stint, but I didn't take it off road and I didn't have a lot of time to kind of kick the tires. This week, round trip around about 1,800 miles, definitely gave me some due time behind that wheel. Now, most notable, it was paved surfaces, open highway, and that truly, in my opinion, tells the true colors. We can't go off-road all the time. Most of us typically have to go to work, and you don't want to park this just for the weekend getaways. So really putting it on the open road showed me what this vehicle can do. Now, obviously with the huge tires and my inexperience with such tires, well, I just assumed there'd be some type of roar and road noise. Well, it just didn't have it. As for the width, I just assumed it would demand my attention and force me to white knuckle it all the time. Didn't happen. Basically what happened is everyone saw this vehicle in its rear view, not to mention the nice running lights right through the grille, and pretty much they'd move over. This vehicle definitely sets the tone, and it all starts with just, well, its overall prowess. What I love about the Raptor on the open road is pretty much it is a demanding presence. The extra haunches on the side, those beefy wheels, it definitely fills the lane, and it's really all about the numbers. Now what you're going to see is two models. The SuperCrew like you see here, or the little bit smaller version, the Super Cab. It's going to be about a foot longer for this model, and pretty much the SuperCrew hints at what lies beneath, pretty much super for interior volume. Now when you look at the overall numbers, what you're going to find is around about 232 inches overall, wheelbase around about 146. As for width, well, it's going to be fairly substantial, around about 8 feet with the mirrors. As for height, about 78 inches tall. But the big number I truly liked is ground clearance, around about 11.5 inches. Why did I like it? Well, it just made the vehicle look a lot more pronounced off the ground. What helps with ingress, of course, are these running rails. And just to note, while they match the rest of the kind of facade, they're nice and steel. At the corners, what you're going to notice is 315/70s wrapping a 17-inch wheel, but more notable is what lies beneath. Now, specifically, the configuration in the front is independent double wishbone with coil over shock and cast aluminum lower control arm. As for the back, leaf spring solid axle. Now, both the front and the back get high output, gas pressurized, electronically controlled, continual variable compression dampening from Fox Racing shocks. Now, that really came into play when I hit speed bumps and maybe the occasional pothole, but if you take this big boy off-road, well, certainly it's going to play a little bit even better. So anytime you talk about a big truck, it's going to require a big engine, and with big engines come, well, losses at the fuel pump. But thankfully, this has a little bit more smarter technology really in the engine. Now it's going to be a 3.5 liter V6 EcoBoost engine with twin turbochargers. All of that said, pretty much 450 horses and 510 foot-pounds of torque. And pretty much what it means is you get the dynamics of both off-road prowess and, well, on-the-road demeanor. And what I'm referring to, again, is that gas mileage and pretty much not the need to hit the turbochargers. And the way you know that is pretty much there on the gauge cluster. The turbocharger gauge is going to kind of let you know how much of that you're using. The more you keep it to the left, the better it sips gas. But certainly when you're off the beaten path and need to hammer it just a hair, almost like you're on the Baja, well, it's there when you need it. The old adage of kicking the tires here on the Raptor doesn't apply unless you're wearing steel-toe shoes because, well, these tires aren't forgiving, nor is all this steel reinforcement all the way around this vehicle. Now, guerrilla warfare is one point, but really it starts with this hood, nice pronounced extractor, and coupled nicely with these extractors here on the fenders. Now, these are more for the airflow through the wheel wells and doesn't really relate to cooling down the engine. Now, swinging around to the guerrilla warfare, again, huge, nice and pronounced across the middle, Ford emblazoned here on the front, nice and kind of darkened accent, and again, the steel sweeping all the way across. Now, this vehicle naturally is going to be equipped with some extra toys, and you know that because, well, the numerous auxiliary switches that can be coupled to turn those toys on. Now, as for some other things, I mentioned the running lights. That definitely is going to remind people that this is a big boy behind you. So if you're in the fast lane, not going fast enough, you definitely want to move over when you see this coming from behind. Now, as for the vertically stacked headlights, I mentioned these on other vehicles. Pretty much this typically is kind of a blinding affair, especially with all the rope lighting and really those nice bright headlights. But what I like here on the F-150 that stands out is this extra rope lighting is subdued in kind of a nice orange glow, coupling nicely again with the running lights. That seems to kind of taper down the old blinding affair for oncoming traffic. Now, the Ford Raptor is definitely not all brawn, definitely has some brain, and it all starts with the ingress with the smart key system. All that basically means is take your hand, put it right here, the vehicle knows you're there, obviously unlocks with ease at every door. Now, one thing to note, to lock it up, just simply hit there. Now, another point to make is, well, the ingress is only front activated. You can't walk up to simply any door and really gain access. Now, certainly you can go old school, press the unlock button, get in with ease. Now, one other Achilles heel is the fill-up area. I always talk about locking the vehicle and locking this. Well, just not the case. Now, this may be Throwback Thursday. This is how trucks do it. Well, I prefer to have a locking mechanism here. New school, though, is the capless when it comes to fill-up. The Raptor's large and in charge, but one way to help scale any vehicle down this size is, well, to add some safety features. Camera in the front, camera in the back, backup sensors, and, well, blind spot awareness, because this vehicle, when it's backing up, this rear end can easily get out in the middle of things and, well, you can't tell. This is really going to help alert you if anything's in the way, not to mention, of course, the cameras and sensors. Now, another feature is really just the good old ingress and, well, this cargo bed. Now, while this is fun to take off-road, it also is kind of a workaholic. Now, where it starts is right here, dropping the good old tailgate. And what I like is it works with the key fob as well. Nice electronic release, and it eases down. Really nice and traditional. Now, to get in here when this is up, nice typical step in the middle, but when it's down, well, it's obviously a jump rolling, however you can get up in here. But one thing the Raptor does well is make life a little bit easier in the form of this, well, retractable step that drops into place. Now, really easy to get up there, but to help with safety, they do have this nice handle, pops in, really gives you some nice sturdiness. Now, really easy to retract this. Simply press one time here. They're actually numbered, number 1, number 2, and it slides right back. This is something, a nice feature that some trucks just still aren't doing. The Raptor, a little bit more ahead of the game. A lot of times climbing in the vehicle is going to be all about sitting in the front because, well, you just want the extra leg room. But for the SuperCrew, well, it's equal across the board, around about 43 inches in the front and the back, giving plenty of room to stretch out. Now, as for overall comfort, certainly these captain chairs in the front definitely give a little bit more comfort than the good old standard bench in the back. Now, let me correct myself. The back row isn't standard by any means. Really, the overall comfort starts with the rear bench. Very comfortable and almost 3 individualized attention for 3 grown adults. Nice center console if you only have 2 or 1 occupants back here. Now, you can move this into a cargo area instead of passenger. Really easy to do. As you can see, the bench really swings up, really one-handed, gets up out of the way. Now, what that reveals is a nice, huge cargo floor, nice and flat. And as you can tell, it comes with this kind of rubber cladding, helps protect, because really this truck is going to be off-road most of the time, and that's going to prevent wear and tear from getting in and out of the vehicle with mud. Airflow is the name of the game for backseat comfort, and where you're going to find it is on the back of the center console. Nice, huge vents Also connectivity in the form of USBs and a traditional power supply here at the back, as well as heated seats for the outer occupants. Oh, and if you need to go old school, traditional car outlet here at the top. Trucks have definitely come a long way with overall design, innovations, and of course ergonomics, and one big point of that is the infotainment system. Now it all starts with a huge touchscreen system, really with this quadrant-like display giving you multiple views at one glance. Now if you want to zoom in, simply click on like the audio, gives you a nice real close-up. Go to climate, that's even better because you don't have to glance down the controls down below. Simply interface right here. Now as you scroll down, what you'll see when it comes to the buttons is modest buttons down below. Nice volume select here, tune select on that side, some presets, and some other quick function here in the middle. Now down below you will find the climate controls, dual zones here on the Raptor. Nice simple controls through the middle when it comes to mode select, as well as all the other functions. Now everything's really integrated, nice and simple, and really right where you need it. Now down below you're going to find heated and cooled seats on this particular model. Now one thing that is somewhat subdued is the fan speed. Now I've always argued, why can't we keep it symmetric, keep this knob here, that knob, and then put a fan speed knob here in the middle, really housing all these various buttons. But instead this small little button control does make it a hair more of a glance to really navigate down to. To keep everything nice and sleek looking, do have this nice covering when it goes to hiding the guts down below. What that's going to be is a nice modest storage, 2 USB connections as well, and a nice shallow tray. Now there is no wireless charging here on this model, wouldn't hurt to equip it there. Nice padded area, wouldn't hurt to put one. Now what you're going to see between the front occupants, nice oversized gear shifter, dual cup holders, nice springy controls to keep the drinks held, as well as this nice tray where you can put your electronics while they're charging to those USBs. Four-wheel drive mode will be found here in this nice toggle switch, as well as trailering controls down below and braking assist as well. Now you're going to find not a traditional key, but instead just a nice push start. One mode I do like is when the vehicle offers tons of controls here on the steering wheel, basically keeps your hands and eyes where they need to be. Now on the left side, these are going to be controlling the gauge cluster, giving you different information, cruise control over here, entertainment in the upper right. Down below, these are really driving dynamics. Now first thing is the mode select. Pretty much you can select between slippery, tow haul, sport, normal, deep snow sand, Baja, and rock crawl. Now those are real easy to kind of select. Now it's up to you to know how to actually maneuver all that. Now over here on the left side is going to be kind of the different steering feel from normal, sport, and comfort. And I pretty much did switch between those a little bit, and you'll notice a little bit more feel in the steering wheel depending on which one you pick. I mentioned earlier those auxiliary switches, you'll find those up above, and those can obviously handle some accessories. You do have a nice full-size sunroof up above, big huge shade when you open it up, does let a lot of light in and can reveal some airflow about halfway down. For the gauge clutch, you're going to find a standard analog tach and speedometer, but most important is right there in the middle. Huge digital readout with gauges and the digital speedometer. Now across you'll see obviously the oil temperature, fuel gauge, and so on, but that bigger display really gives you lots of other information. You can pretty much scroll through using the control on the steering wheel, but the most important one really being in maybe the tow haul mode or really the off-road status. This gives you lots of kind of gauge cluster of what the vehicle is doing, how it's leaning, which way the wheels are articulating. That's helpful obviously when you're in those tight spots, rock crawling, whatever. Again, that's more advanced than what I typically do, so I'll leave that to the experts. Left side, you will have these two controls. These are some lights built in there on the outer mirrors. Now, one thing to note, they do relate to the lighting, so when the lights are off, they're not going to turn on, but you can mainly turn them on at night. Now, they don't work at highway speeds, only at low speeds, because obviously that's a distraction to other drivers. Backseat drivers aren't the only ones with connectivity. USBs, as I mentioned earlier, but you do have a nice power outlet and traditional car supply as well. Between front seat drivers, you will find this nice oversized console. What's helpful is good elbow support, but really what lies beneath, huge amount of storage. This is removable, so you can get better access down below. You'll also find a connectivity over there in the traditional car supply power outlet. The Raptor can certainly handle itself off-road, and you can tell that at one glance, but the bigger story is how it handles itself on the open road, the highways, the back roads. It's got a great demeanor, and that's the key point, because certainly we're going to get away, we're going to hit the dirt roads, but our daily driver might be this vehicle, and with that, we want it to be calm, cool, and relaxed, and the biggest thing, comfortable. You can of course see it on the inside, but it just has to have great awareness when it's on the open road and smooth out the edges and Well, when I want to let my hair down, well, it'll do that too. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel, and I straight ahead.